All right, pre-algebra students, moving on to translating expressions. So you can evaluate an expression. Now we're going to learn how to take words like a number minus 11, or 11 subtracted from a number, or a number decreased by 11, or 11 less than a number, and turn it into algebra, like this. So that's what this video is all about. All right, let's get started. To translate is to take information in one format and write it in another one. You do it all the time in your foreign language classes, and if you're not taking foreign language classes, you've probably done it in other classes, because you're taking information from one mode. Like when I'm speaking, if I say 3 plus 7 plus 2, that's really translating when you write that down as the numerals. So, you know, you get the idea. Translate. We will take verbal phrases and sentences, and we will write them as algebraic expressions and equations. All right, so what I'm saying is that an expression, that comes from a verbal phrase. A phrase, remember a phrase, for example, could be anything that doesn't include a period and a capital letter at the beginning. So any fragment, you could think sentence fragment, and then sentences, full sentences, make equations. So if it's an entire equation, it's a sentence, it's going to be an equation. If it's a phrase, it's going to be an expression. And then one more thing here. What makes them algebraic is that they include what important detail? Variables. So you're going to see words that mean an unknown value, and you're going to have to remember that that's translated into variables. So we're going to look at words for all the different operations, starting with addition and subtraction. You got a cute little kind of infographic here to help you remember. You got your plus sign, the words plus or and, total. If you find the total of something, you're adding it together. If you want to put numbers all together, you are adding them. If you increase something by a number, increased by 2, for example, that's adding. Combined, you're putting stuff together, again, adding. Add, obviously, addition, add. The sum, that's the answer to an addition sentence. Together, if I put things together. So many more than another. 6 more than 2, that's adding. Added to, again, has the word add in it. In all, putting them all together. And how many does that make? So in other words, if I have, X and Y, how many does that make when I put them together? When you have subtraction, you'll see the word subtract. You'll see gave, as in you gave something away. Take away. Decrease by, the opposite, increase by. Fewer. Minus, literally minus, which is subtraction. Shared, because if you're sharing things with other people, you're taking away from what you have. Fewer than, less than, the difference between. And then this one, awkward, is less. Okay? And a couple of these you're going to want to be thinking carefully about. Less than is one that causes you to need to reverse what you hear, and we'll see that in a few minutes. Less sounds awkward, so make sure you look for those examples as we go. Go for multiplication and division, again, infographic. For multiplication, you'll see times. You'll see double, means times 2. Triple, times 3. The product, that's the answer when you multiply two numbers together. Multiplied by, of, that's an important one. Okay, that's an important one. When I say half of, that's the same thing as saying half. Well, instead of writing the word half, let's actually write math. Duh. It's the same thing as saying half times. So half of 10 is 1/2 times 10, and both of those equal 5. So that's one that you may not recognize before this video. Of is multiplication. Increased by a factor of so many. When you do something twice, so twice a number, same as double, 2 times. Or multiple times, you could multiply by a particular number. All right, for division. Sorry, a little editing jump. The quotient of. That's like the difference of with subtraction. The quotient of, the first and second thing, is the first divided by the second. Per can be division. Now, per can also actually be multiplication in some circumstances for real-world applications that aren't like these translating problems, for like real situation word problems. Like if you make so many dollars per hour, you would multiply the dollars times the hours. So per can also be multiplication. Wanted to stick that in there. The ratio of two numbers is the division of the two numbers. Divided by, literally division. Half When you want to find half of something, you could multiply by a half, but you could also divide by 2. Divisor, divided into. Percent, we will see with percent problems we often do division, and split up. If you're splitting something up amongst a group of people, you might divide a number. Words and phrases for equals and for the use of parentheses. So equals, this is when we get to equations here, is means equals. So any derivation of the word is, are, were, was, they're all equals. Will be, another derivation of is, just the future tense. And please don't ask me tenses. I'm not good at that. I actually had to relearn all of them in foreign language because I never really learned them in English in the first place. Yields, I specifically used that one in the video because that was a weird one. Yields, as in gives you, as in equals. Sold for. Okay, so if you sold it for so much money, that's what it equals. And then you have some phrases where you actually put them in parentheses. I don't know who spells parentheses with an I, but I know that it's either Canadian English or English, as opposed to American English, because I'm pretty sure it's E for us. It didn't give me an underlined red squiggly, so I'm pretty sure that's right. But anyway, just go with it. So when you want to put values in parentheses, you have some words that mean that. The quantity of, twice the sum of, times the sum of, because if we're multiplying a sum, it needs to be in parentheses, and we'll see that in a few examples. Times the difference of, plus the difference of. So these are all situations where you have to put your values in parentheses. All right, now we'll go ahead and actually do some translating. What we saw in those previous 3 slides, and we're taking those words and we're putting it into algebra. So whenever we see a phrase like a number, and all of these have a number, that's your variable. So let's read the first one. A number increased by 5. Well, the cool part about this is you get to pick your letter. When you decide on a variable, there are a couple of letters I would appreciate you not using. Please avoid using S. It looks too much like a 5. Or if you want to use an S, use a cursive S. I know some of you are like, what's cursive? But, bear with me. Try not to use an L because it looks like a 1. If you have to use an L, use a cursive L. And then O, try to an O, it looks like a 0, use a cursive O. Or actually the Greek letter theta, that's also what the Greek letter theta looks like. But anyway, if you're insisting on using those letters, please, 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 please use the cursive version for me. All right, a number increased by 5. So increased by is addition. So we are adding to our number. So I'm going to use n for my variable here. Increased by 5. So n plus 5. We could, of course, also write that 5 plus n. And that's something we'll talk about in our next video called the commutative property, which hopefully you remember because it isn't the first time you've heard it, where you can change the order of addition and it's still true. All right, 3 less than a number. Now this is one of those ones you've got to reverse. 3 less than. Okay, 3 less than. That means minus 3. And what I want you to do is ask yourself, if I have 3 less than someone else, do I do 3 minus or minus 3? Well, I do minus 3. 3 less than what? 3 less than a number. Next one, the quotient of a number in 12. That is one that goes straight through from left to right. The quotient of a number in 12 is the number divided by 12. But I don't want to see that. I want to see the number divided by 12. I want to see the fraction bar for division. I want to see the fraction bar for division, please. The product of a number and 11. So product, that's multiplication. Now, although we know a number times 11 with a dot or a number times 11 with parentheses is still the same thing as 11 times a number, we're not going to write that for algebra either. When you write a number times a variable, you're going to write it like that. So a number times 11 is going to be 11n. You're not going to put a dot, you're not going to put parentheses, and you're definitely not going to put an x, because x can now be looked at as a variable. You can't use that anymore. So you've got to have 11n, no dots, no parentheses, no x. 11 times n is 11n. Start getting used to it, okay? Please, thank you. Moving on. Step it up a notch. Let's add a couple of operations into these instead of just one at a time. 3 times the sum of a number and 6. We're multiplying a sum. That means we're using parentheses. So 3 times, again, 3 times something, we are not going to put an operation symbol in there. We don't need it anymore. We don't need it anymore. The sum of a number and 6. So we're adding the number and the 6 n plus 6 in parentheses. And that is the best way to write that. Although you could have n plus 6 with the 3 afterwards, it does mean the same thing. It looks kind of awkward, so I'd probably stick with the first one. Next one, 8 less than 3 times a number. When I read 8 less than, just like I did the less than phrase on the previous slide, when I read 8 less than, my first reaction is not to write an 8. It's to write a minus sign. Because 8 less than means minus 8. So that's what I want you to do. 8 less than. Minus 8. 8 less than what? Well, now we got to figure out what goes in front of it. 8 less than 3 times a number. And that we've learned is 3n. Not 3.n, not 3 parentheses n, not 3xn. 3xn. Sounds like a Star Wars droid. 3n minus 8. Next one, the square of a number less 5. Whoa, that's different. Okay, we didn't cover square, but if I'm squaring a number, what am I doing to it? I'm taking it and I'm putting an exponent of 2 on it. The square of a number less 5. Less 5 literally means minus 5. Okay, that literally means minus 5. So that's what I want you to think of with less 5 is really minus 5. Notice there's no other words there. It doesn't say less than 5. It doesn't say is less than 5 or anything like that. It just says less 5. That means minus 5. 6 more than the quotient of a number in 2. All right, 6 more than. So 6 more than means I'm adding 6. So I'm going to take my 6 more than. I'm going to add 6, so plus 6. Or I could do 6 plus, doesn't matter. The quotient of a number in 2. We learned in the previous slide that we read that straight across, the quotient of a number in 2, but we write it straight down. We write it straight down, the quotient of a number and 2. So it could also be 6 plus the quotient of a number and 2 because both of those mean the same thing because of that commutative property with addition. All right, now let's try some equations. So on this, you've got sentences. This time you see sentences. So we're going to translate these, including that is portion and the other side of the equation. 6 times a number is 48. Well, we've already learned 6 times a number is 6n. Whoop, switch to the pen, Miss LeCompte. 6n. 6 times a number is 6n. What is 6n? It is 48. 6 times a number is 48. Now, I know what probably is frustrating for you is, well, the answer is 8. No, the answer is what you see right here because the directions are to translate, not to find the number. It's not bad to find the number. That's going to be some of the next steps we take in the next quarter, is to start finding those numbers, solving these equations. So it's okay to see that in your head, but that's not the direction you're being given right now. So make sure you're paying attention to what we're doing here. 14 less than twice a number is the same as 8. All right, I see 14 less than. So that's my reaction to 14 less than needs to be to go in and write minus 14. 14 less than what? 14 less than twice a number. That is the same as. So now we're looking at another phrase that means equals. So is means equals is the same as. Oh, I forgot the as. Is the same as means same thing as is, and it's 8. The square of a number decreased by 7 is 20. So we've already addressed the square of a number. So let's go ahead and write that. That's n squared. Decreased by is minus 7, and that is 20. The sum, you know, it's come to my attention, I don't think everyone is really paying attention in these videos with the sound. I think some of you are watching them with the sound off, which is probably not bright. First of all, you don't get the dulcet tones of my voice. And second of all, you're not getting the commentary. You're not getting the detail. You're not getting the extra stuff I say. And that's important. So I've decided that today's video secret word is pineapple. Don't say the word in class. Do not say the word in class. When you come into class, the next time I see you, which is going to be Monday, I want you to sit down and I want you to start your warm-up, and I want you to write the secret word on your warm-up, and then I will come around and I will take a look at it. And that way, maybe I can check and catch who's not listening to the audio. Last problem. Last problem. So you also have to stick it out all the way to the end. All right. So again, I've got that phrase, the sum. So let's look at that phrase real quick. The sum of a number in 5 divided by 2 yields 16. There's that yields there. Yields 16. You know what? That's the easiest part. Equals 16. I like that part. The sum of a number in 5. That's n plus 5. If the sum is being divided, that means I put it in parentheses, but you know what? I'm not using the division sign. So do I really need those parentheses right there? I don't. I don't actually need them, so I can get rid of them. And that's going to be it for your video. You've stuck it out all the way to the end. Don't forget about what we talked about there a few moments ago, and I'll see you guys in class.